Now, let me introduce you to a little chart here that the animated Hebrew guy, Charles, came up with. And I've put this on my website. I don't expect you to memorize this. I just want to walk through the kinds of situations where we have some slightly different forms of the article than what we're looking for. Right now, we're going to forget the first this first row here. Okay, I'm going to put an X here. Don't put an X on your sheet if you happen to have printed this before. I just want to skip down to the implied doubling and the compensatory lengthening. Okay, for now, let's avoid the top row and the bottom row. What kind of consonants are we seeing right here? If we're adding an article to a word that starts with any of these consonants, what are those consonants called? Yes, those are all guts, right? And did you notice that on the column here, the third column, it's asking, is the dagesh present? The answer is always no, right? Because you can never put a dagesh forte in a guttural, right? You'll always be missing it. When there's a guttural in the beginning of the word, and I want to put the article in front of it, what's the article going to look like? Well, it's going to be ha with no dagesh, he with no dagesh, ha with a kametz but no dagesh, or he, right? And that is exactly what we see here, right? What I just told you. So basically, my little chart for you is simplified because I'm not giving you all the circumstances where it happens, but if you look at the handout, you're going to see it. So if I have a he or a chet, I'm going to get a ha with no doubling dot before it for the article. Okay, and he gives us some examples here. We have words like heikal, which means temple. I add the article right here. I can't put a dagesh forte there, can I? So it rejects the dagesh forte, but it leaves the pathak the way it is. This, by the way, is called implied doubling, and some call it virtual doubling. What does that mean? Well, what am I supposed to do with the article hey here? I'm supposed to put a pathak under the hey, and I'm supposed to put a doubling dot in the hey there, right? Implied or virtual doubling is simply saying, look, I'm supposed to double that hey. I can't put a doubling dot there, so I won't put it there, but I'm sure going to pronounce it like it's double. I'm going to act like it's double. I'm going to virtually double the hey. And that's why I retain the short vowel. It's as if it's got a dagesh forte, but we're not going to write it. It's as if I were dividing the syllable, I would treat this like a closed syllable with two chets. I just am not allowed to write the dagesh forte in it. Ha-he-kal. It's virtually or impliedly doubled. Ha-he-kal. Okay? Now, I'm probably not going to ever ask you to divide a syllable like this, but just realize that when this is called virtual or implied doubling, that's what's happening, is we're treating the guttural as if it were double. Okay? Here's the word hokmah, wisdom. Let's think about this. If I can't write the doubling dot here, but it is virtually doubled, okay? And if I were to divide my syllable the way I normally would, if I had a doubling dot, then these are the ways I divide it. I have hach, he, chal, okay? That's closed, open, what? Closed, right? Because we're virtually doubling it. It's like there's two heys here. Now, where's my tone? The tone is way over here on the back. This is pretonic. This is propertonic. Okay? So, this is, in effect, a closed and an unaccented syllable, isn't it? And if it's closed and unaccented, I need what kind of a vowel under the hey? I need a short vowel, right? This is why it doesn't lengthen to a kametz. Okay? This is why it gets to stay the short pathak here. Okay? So that's why when I say it's virtually doubled, for all intents and purposes, it's doubled. But Hebrew won't allow us to put a doubling dot in that guttural, because gutturals can't take any dagesh forte from anyone, right? It's not in their nature. Okay, so let's take a look at this second set of situations. If you're starting a word and you want to add an article to a word that starts with a ha with a kametz, a cha with a kametz, or a cho, which is a compound shava that has a kametz ketuf as part of it, what will the article look like? Well, I can't put a doubling dot here, but I'm going to use the segol for my vowel pointing. And so in all my examples here, I have he harim, he chacham, and he chodashim. Okay? The first part you're looking at, these are all the article. And that's really all I need you to know. I do not expect you to memorize this chart and remember what all these crazy little vowels are. I just need you to recognize when you see he in front of a word that happens to have a guttural with some funny vowels under it, that you need to translate that as the. It's the article. Okay? But these are some examples of where that happens. Over here, so one of my strategies is to let the guttural be implied in terms of its doubling, because the article always wants to try to put a dagesh forte in the first consonant. And you can't put it there, but in all these cases we're acting like it's there. Okay? Now, what about this situation? When I want to put an article, attack it onto a word that begins with an aleph, an ayin, or a resh. These three will, of course, not take the dagesh forte as we've seen, but they will cause the pathak under the article hey to compensatorily lengthen to a long a, which is called a kametz. So that's why that's under the compensatory lengthening row. Okay? So in our examples here, we have ha'ish. Notice that I still have a ha sound, but I don't have the short pathak. I have the compensatorily long kametz, the long a instead of the short a, and no dagesh forte. Ha'ir. Who remembers what ear means? Have we seen this word? It's the word city. So ha'ish is the man, ha'ir is the city. Again, I can't put a dagesh forte in it. So when the ayin rejects the dagesh forte, the short pathak lengthens to a kametz. And then regel is the word for foot or leg. And when I want to put a dagesh forte in the resh, can't do it, so the pathak of the article compensatorily lengthens to a long a called kametz. So that's compensatory lengthening there. Now, Charles Grieb also tells you that when you have an ayin that has a kametz under it, like this, not only will you not double the ayin with a doubling dot, but it will change to a segol here as well. And here is an example of the plural of cities is arim, and the form of my article still has the hey, but it gets a segol here. So het arim. The last part of the chart really, well, actually, I guess there's two last parts. There's the dagesh omitted here. Now, I want you to notice, and again, this is a situation where I'm not really going to be requiring you to so much memorize this, just that you be able to recognize it when it happens. So we put an X over here on dagesh omitted. Now we're going to deal with it. There are some times when you're not dealing with a guttural as the first consonant of the word, but there's still some funny things that happen with the article. And that is where if I had a word that starts with a y or a m, okay, now notice I'm vocalizing the shava here because these would be at the beginning of the word, right? Y and m. And when that happens, the article should be hey pathak doubling dot, but the doubling dot won't be written in these situations, okay? So let's take this word yiladim, which is the word for children. Yiladim, okay? That's a vocal shava under the yod, right? When I add the hey pathak doubling dot, the yod here is going to say thanks but no thanks, and the doubling dot will end up not being written. And so I'm going to have the ha, but just no dagesh forte here. In these situations, by the way, what will happen is that the vocal shava will end up being pronounced like a silent shava. So it ends up becoming hayladim. So ha yiladim becomes hayladim. Hayladim. Okay? So you don't be surprised when you see that happening. That's still the article. Hayladim. Hayladim. Now over here, if you have y or m beginning a word, but then you have an ayin or a hey, then usually the dagesh will stay put. And what we have in this situation is when we have Yehudim, and I add the article, the dagesh will be there. So that's normal. So that shouldn't trip you up. What he's just pointing out here is that sometimes the dagesh forte gets lost and sometimes it stays put. Either way, you can still tell that you've got an article here. So that's really the most important thing. Okay? Now, the last thing we see here on the chart is what's called harmonization. That is to say, vowel harmonization. And Ross deals with this in section 5 on page 65. I'll be honest with you. I wish that Ross had just made this a separate section and not made it number 5. Because what's going on here in Ross, page 64 and 65, numbers 1 through 4, those are all situations where the article is being changed from what you expect. These are all situations where I'm expecting hey pathak doubling dot, and I'm getting something else besides that. I'm getting hey pathak no doubling dot, hey kametz no doubling dot, or hey segol and no doubling dot. But they're all issues of the article hey not showing up the way it's supposed to show up. This Ross number 5 section at the bottom of page 65 has nothing to do with the article hey and it not being what it's supposed to be. The issue here is that the first syllable, okay, so that's what I want to make sure we're clear about. It's that the first syllable of the noun is acting a little bit weird, okay? The first syllable of the noun ends up being a little funny. So let's take a look at the examples in Ross, okay? We'll just walk through this, and I just want to give you some perspective on it. Let's take the word eretz here, which you've learned means land or earth, right? The accent is here. If I were going to add the article to this, could I put a hey, pathak, and a doubling dot in the aleph? No, because that's a guttural, right? Gutturals don't take no dagesh from anyone, so that guttural will be rejected. And aleph is one of those guttural consonants that cause the preceding short vowel to lengthen to compensate for the loss of dagesh forte. And so that becomes a kametz. Okay? So, is that article the normal form of the article that you would see before an aleph? The answer is yes. I mean, it's not the normal form of the article because you expect a dagesh forte, but given the way alephs normally behave, this is normal for an aleph. So why is this word in our list for Ross? It has to do not with the article, it has to do with the change in the vowel of the word eretz. It's not going to be pronounced ha-eretz. It's rather going to undergo a vowel change in the noun. And that vowel change is going to create an A vowel under the aleph. And so it's going to be pronounced ha-aretz. Okay? Ha-aretz. So when Charles Grieve from Animated Hebrew on that little handout we have, when he refers to this as harmonization, what he's saying is that this vowel is harmonized, the vowel of the noun is harmonizing with the vowel of the article. Okay? That's what's happening here. So eretz is earth, ha-aretz is the earth. Okay? If we take a look at har, the word for mountain is normally spelled this way. Har, like Har Megiddo, is the expression Armageddon, the mountain of Megiddo. And if I want to write the mountain, I'm going to get, in this case, a hay with a kametz and no dagesh forte in the hay, and then the short pathak under the under the hay of the noun har is going to harmonize with the kametz of the ha before it. Okay? So mountain is har with a short pathak. Ha-har is spelled with the double kametz, the mountain. Okay, so that's a change to the the vowel of the noun. Okay, that's the issue. It's the noun's vowel is doing some funny things here. The word for people. This is one of our vocab words already. Has a short pathak, and when I add the article and say ha'am, right, what happens? I'm going to get a kametz, and the pathak that was short is going to harmonize and become a long kametz to match the kametz under the article hey, ha'am. Okay, so people and the people. And then the word gone. This one's interesting. The word gone is the word for garden. Okay? Now, what kind of vowel is under the gimel here with gone? It's a pathak. Is the pathak long or short?
Short.
It's short, okay? Now, let me ask you one other question. If you wanted to attach the article to garden, to say the garden, what would you put in front of the gimel? Hey, pathak under it. Can you put a dagesh forte in the gimel?
Yes.
Yes. Is gimel a guttural? No. Gimel is not a guttural. So look, the hey, pathak, and doubling dot in the gimel, this is normal, standard vowel pointing, right? That's perfect. And that is the way the article is written with garden. But the gimel will lengthen its pathak to a kametz in this situation. Notice that the vowel is still short before it. So here, it's not an issue of vowel harmonization at all. It's just that the word gone happens to lengthen its vowel when you add the article to it. Okay? And so, again, the problem here has nothing to do with the article. The problem has to do with the noun's vowel. And that's why, in my opinion, putting it right here under the first four sets of examples is ill-advised, because the first four sections are, you're expecting to see changes in the article form. But in these, it's really not an issue of the article being weird. It's that the noun has done some funny things. Okay? Either way, I think if you know these words, you'll still know that the ha in front of them is the article, so you can still translate them properly as you need to. Okay, so 6.4. This brings us to the inseparable prepositions added to definite nouns, where the noun with this article is having to undergo these crazy changes that we've just gone through because the noun begins with a weak consonant. Okay? So if we take a word like ear, for example, what does ear mean? Good. So ear means city. Now, I'm going to I'm going to copy that several times here because we're going to play with this for a little bit. Okay? So I've got city, 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 city. All right. I could translate ear all by itself as a city, right? A city. Now what if I want to say the city? What do I do? Yeah, I add the hey. Can I add a pathak and a doubling dot? Okay. Nope. I can't take that. That ayin's a guttural. It can't take the doubling dot, right? So he will reject it. And in the case of ayin, the preceding short vowel will lengthen. To what vowel? Pathak becomes kametz. Okay, so this is ha-ir. Ha-ir, the city. Now, what if I want to say to a city? I can take the lamed preposition here, add it to ear, right? And I've got to a city. Do I need to change that shavah? Is there any reason why I can't put a vocal shavah in front of the ayin? No. The standard vowel pointing for a lamed preposition is just a vocal shavah. There's not supposed to be a dagesh forte after it, right? Yeah? Okay, so don't get confused here. We only have to worry about gutturals in first position in the word if I've got a dagesh forte that some word requires to be there. The lamed preposition only requires standard a vocal shavah, right? So to say to a city is just le ear. But now I want to say to the city. So I have to go back to the city, and that's spelled ha-ir, like this, right? No dagesh forte, compensatory lengthening. And now I want to add my lamed preposition to it. Le ha-ir. What does lamed like to do with hays when he sees them? He chomp, chomp, chomp likes to swallow it up, right? So the hay is going to get swallowed up. What will the kametz vowel pointing of the hay do here? Will it stay or will it go? It will stay, and the lamed is going to slide over and take the hay's place, and the vocal shavah is going to be ditched. So, to rewrite this now the way it's supposed to look, we will get rid of all this other stuff and put our lamed where the hay was, and then we'll be done. So la-ir. And so here's the big question. Okay, la-ir means to the city. To the city. Le-ir right here is to a city. Can you tell the difference between those two?
Yes.
Okay, good. So to a city, to the city. Le-ir, la-ir. What you have to pay attention to is the vowel pointing, right? This vowel pointing under the lamed is crucial. If I have a vocal shavah, there's no article. If I have something besides the vocal shava, I need to be asking myself, is there an article swallowed up in here that where the hay's gone, but the vowel of the article is still present? Okay? You're not going to be able to go based on the doubling dot because these gutturals are rejecting the doubling dot. So you can't use that to know if there was an article that got swallowed up. It's only the vowel pointing at this point. Pardon the pun. Let's take a look at the word for sword, which is cherev. And there's an accent mark there on cherev. So this is sword. All right. And then let's write like a sword. This is the example Ross gives here. So if I want to say like a sword, okay, there's no article here. I'm going to add the preposition kaf, and I add my standard vocal shava under it. Is there any reason why the vocal shava can't stay here under the kaf? Nope. It's perfectly good. Someone might say, oh, but there's a guttural right here. The chet's a guttural. Well, that's okay, because when I'm just doing a normal inseparable preposition, what it comes standard with is just the vocal shava, not a vocal shava and a doubling dot in the next consonant, right? It's just a vocal shava. So we're good here. Okay, so that's like a sword. Now, what if I want to say the sword? I take cherev right here, and I add hey pathak doubling dot. Can I put a doubling dot in that chet? The article comes standard with a doubling dot in the first consonant of the noun. Can I do that? No. Hebrew will not allow me to do that, right? So the doubling dot will be rejected by the guttural. But chet is one of those consonants that doesn't cause the preceding short vowel to lengthen compensatorily like ayin does. It rather leaves the short vowel, and the chet undergoes what's called implied or virtual doubling. So it's going to be spelled like this: ha cherev, which is the sword. Okay? Now, let's add the preposition like, which is the preposition kaf. Okay? I add a kaf preposition. I add my vocal shava. Kaf sees the hay and says, you're tasty? I'll have a hay sandwich. He eats the hay, swallows the hay. Hay is gone. Kaf will slide over and take the vowel of the article hay, but the hay will be missing. So when we rewrite this, what's it going to look like? It's going to look like this. Ka cherev. Okay? Now, look at k cherev, the first one. Compare it to ka cherev, the second one. Can you tell that there was an article in the second one? Yes. How do you know that? Because the normal way to vocalize a preposition, kaf, bet, or lamed, is with a vocal shava. And since I see something that looks like it could be the remnants of an article, then I'm thinking there's an article that's been swallowed up, right? The pathak is the leg of the article dangling out of the mouth of the kaf. Or it's what the kaf has burped up. Whatever the case, it's the remnants of the hay. There you go. So, k cherev, like a sword. Ka cherev, like the sword.